Hi friends, thank you for tuning in to the Concussion Coach podcast. I'm Bethany Lewis, the Concussion Coach. I'm a neurological occupational therapist and certified life coach, and I specialize in guiding people through their concussion recovery journey. I am passionate about helping people understand their injury, speed up their recovery, and reclaim control over their life post-concussion. The purpose of this podcast is to help increase awareness of concussions and the impact they can have on a person's life, and to bring hope to people who have suffered a concussion and those who love them. I firmly believe that sharing stories and knowledge about concussions will bring important light and understanding to this misunderstood and often invisible injury. The information in this podcast is meant to bring that awareness and hope and is not meant as medical advice. The opinions shared are those of the interviewees and my own. If you are suffering with lingering concussion symptoms, I have created a concussion coaching program specifically for you. I will be your mentor to guide you through your recovery journey, offering help with understanding and managing your symptoms, setting achievable goals, and learning how to manage your own thoughts and nervous system in order to get control over your life again. If this program sounds like something that would help you or someone you love, sign up for a free consultation. In the consultation, you'll get valuable information and resources and gain hope for your future. Sign up for your free consultation at the link in the show notes or at my website, www.theconcussioncoach.com. Hi friends, welcome back to the Concussion Coach podcast. I am so excited for our conversation today. My guest is Clare Sharpen. Clare lives in London, UK with her husband and 3 teenage kids. Clare experienced over 2 years of recovery from post-concussion syndrome following a concussion in June 2023. During that time, she found it a real struggle to find the right support because post-concussion care in the UK is still very patchy. As part of her recovery journey, Clare discovered a lot about nutrition and lifestyle interventions and how these support brain health. And as a result, she trained and qualified as a registered health coach in early 2025. Clare is now the founder of the Brain Health Coach UK and runs the Post-Concussion Wellbeing Course, supporting people through post-concussion recovery using a nutrition and lifestyle approach alongside any clinical care they may be having. Clare is particularly passionate about turning post-concussion struggles around for good and helping others to do the same so that we are left more health-filled, self-compassionate, and attuned to our bodies than we were before. I love that. She describes her experience as the gift wrapped in suffering and hopes that sharing her knowledge and experience will give others hope on their post-concussion journey. And I got chills just reading that. I love it so much. And I remember when I first read that, the gift wrapped in suffering, I just think that's so true and so beautifully said. So thank you for being here. I'm so excited for this conversation, Clare.
Thank you, Bethany, for having me. And I feel like I'm joining an old friend because I looked up this morning and I've actually listened to 15 of your podcast episodes.
Oh.
So it's a real honor and privilege to come on and to share my story. So thanks for having me.
Thank you. That means a lot to me. I'm so grateful to hear that. And it is fun. It feels like when you listen to podcasts, it's like you're just a fly on the wall listening to this conversation. It does feel like you get to know people. So I'm very excited to get to know you as well. And hear your journey. I was inspired by your Instagram account. That's why I think we connected through Instagram. I was like, oh, I love what she's doing. So tell us, let's jump in. Tell us about your injury. It sounds like it was a couple years ago. Yeah, well, I'll just let you start your story here. We'll ask questions along the way.
Okay, great. So it was actually 3 years and a week ago. So I've just celebrated the 3-year milestone. And partway through, I thought when I reach a year, I'd really like to celebrate recovery. And that wasn't going to happen. And same for 2 years. And that didn't happen either. But just about a few weeks ago, I thought, I'm actually ready to celebrate recovery. So last weekend, we had a party with friends come around and just celebrated feeling so much better. So 3 years in, which is really great.
That's so beautiful. I'm sorry that it was so much longer than you expected, but also that's so wonderful. You're at that point. I hope people hearing this, that it's hope giving. I know if you're like a few months in and you're like, wait a minute, it might be 3 years. Like that might be a little jarring. But just, I love that you celebrated and that you're feeling so much better. I just think that's so beautiful. And so how did it come about? What kind of symptoms were you dealing with?
So I was in a restaurant with a colleague who I worked closely with, and after the meal I started to feel a bit weird. He said my eyes were closing a bit. I felt like I was going to vomit, so I got up to head to the toilets and found myself face down on a wooden floor. I had fainted and fallen headfirst down a set of steps, about 4 or 5 wooden steps.
Oh man.
I didn't realize for a long time that I'd actually been unconscious for, he said 5 to 10 minutes. You don't know when you're unconscious because you just wake up.
Yes.
So an ambulance had been called, but I said, no, I'm fine. I don't need an ambulance. Gradually sat up. Big mistake. um, but yeah, after about 40 minutes, he got me home. He came back on the train with me back home. And I just thought, well, I was a bit battered and bruised, had a nosebleed, but thought, I'll be okay. My daughter actually said to me quite recently, when I got home that night, it was like I'd been drinking a lot. I was kind of hyper,
Mm.
which I didn't perceive at the time. And then the next day, I went to see a doctor, um, and she did various things. I think she probably said to me, if things get worse, go to hospital, but I don't think I clocked that. And I was in there on my own because it was a very small room and my husband, there wasn't space for him to come in. So I don't think I really clocked what she was saying. And then she referred me, because I'd fainted, she referred me to a cardiologist. So I went down this whole red herring thing for a long
Mm.
time of cardiology tests, which were horrible. Um, and the upshot of that was, from the cardiologist and then from my own GP, was just, well, I had very low heart rate and very low blood pressure. And they said, take some blood pressure medication. So yeah, so I saw four different medical specialists, and none of them said the word concussion.
Mm.
And even though they knew I'd fallen headfirst down a set of steps, so I just slipped through the net. So I thought I had some kind of chronic fatigue. So
Mm.
I was just massively fatigued, and I'm a high energy person, but like, when you've got the flu or something, you just think I might have a shower, and it just doesn't happen. It was like that.
Yeah.
Um, So yeah, so that's kind of where it all started.
Oh my goodness. Was it, yeah, I'm just sorry to hear that it's understandable, I think, to some degree, like that, a medical professional is seeing through the lens that they see through, and I don't know. It's just, it is hard. It's hard to hear these kinds of stories where it's like, oh yeah, it just, the concussion piece was not even mentioned. And so, yeah,
Yeah,
hopefully we can get more information out there. That's why we're
yeah.
doing things like this, right? So, so do you like, had you had any fainting episodes prior to this, or like, did you know that you had low blood pressure? Do you think it was just one of those, you stood up too
I
fast
think it
kind of
was
thing?
just, yeah, it was just one of those things. I'm not sure. Maybe a combination of factors. No, I'm not a regular fainter.
Okay.
So it was just one of those things. Had I just fainted where I was sat, then none of this would have happened. It's just one of those things.
Yeah.
But we'll come on to this, but I do believe there was a purpose behind it, and so it is what it is.
Good point.
Um, so yeah, so I spent 10 weeks really with intense fatigue, and like brain fog doesn't really describe it, but it's like I just can't think straight. I would lie in bed, I would listen to health related podcasts because I was just trying to desperately find the solution to chronic fatigue, is what I thought I had.
Yeah.
Um, and just couldn't really think straight at all. Went for these various doctor's appointments, but other than that, just stayed in my room with the curtains shut. I didn't know I had light sensitivity. It was the summer, but the light sensitivity is more with electric light, and I just
Mm.
hold up inside. And I'm a very active person, but I didn't go for a walk to the park, I think, for about 6 weeks, something like that. Which previously I would walk my kids to school every day, was very active. So
Mm.
um, yeah, and so we then went on a short holiday, and I started to feel better then. And it's this weird thing with post-concussion that sometimes you seem better and you think, oh, okay, coming
Yes.
out of this, and then you're in a different context and you get worse again. And so began the mystery of post-concussion, really, of the ups and downs. Why is it on holiday I'm loads better, and then when I'm back to normal life I'm loads worse? Am I just making this up? Is this just, what's going on here? So
Yes.
yeah, so it happened the end of June, and then we kind of came back in September, and it was 10 weeks after the fall that I'd listened to a podcast actually about the gut brain connection, and they mentioned the word brain injury, and I was like, oh, brain injury. Googled fatigue and brain injury because I'd Googled fatigue and every other possibility, and
Yes.
came across post-concussion syndrome. And I was lying in the hammock at the time. It was Sunday afternoon, and I literally nearly fell out of the hammock. I was like, oh my goodness, this is it.
Yes.
This is
Oh,
the list. This is me. absolutely every single thing on the post-concussion list. The only thing that I was not so sure of was socially inappropriate behavior. And I was like, well, I don't know. Maybe I've been
How
socially
much?
inappropriate and didn't know it.
Oh my gosh. Did you confirm with your family? You're like, hey guys, am I being socially appropriate or not? Oh, man,
Uh,
that is
yeah,
crazy. I am so glad you found it, but
yeah,
I think that's a good example of like you just keep looking and you'll find something eventually, but
yeah,
it's like, yeah, the timing, whatever it's, but that's oh
yeah.
man.
Yeah, yeah. And I had 24 hours of being really actually quite excited and elated. I phoned my poor parents and was like, oh, I discovered what's wrong with me. I've got a brain injury. Oh, great. And it wasn't until 24 hours later that it really sunk in. So I
Mm,
went to a doctor the very next morning and said, this is what I've got. And he was like, yeah, you probably have. I have private health insurance. So in the UK, it's a bit different. There's the National Health Service, where it's a very good service for acute problems, but you have to wait a very long time if it's not an emergency. But I'm
mhm,
fortunate I've got health insurance, so was able to get an appointment with a neurologist scheduled and started that process. But from my research, so I immediately started listening to Cameron Marshall, the concussion doc, and starting to look up concussion stuff and was like, ah, okay, neurologists don't necessarily
mhm,
know what's required. So I went with a long list of, I want a referral for this, for this, for this. So I then got a referral for vestibular testing and vestibular physiotherapy. But all of that took a long time. So it was actually 5 months after the fall that I got my first vestibular physiotherapy. And so,
really?
yeah, and he referred me to a psychotherapist who I've been using for a long time. And so that's what's kind of when the journey began of making progress. I'd already been doing kind of nutrition stuff, which we can talk about, but that's when when I began to start the journey of recovery, I suppose. And maybe that's true for a lot of people, that there's this weird period of like no man's land, which in some ways is worse when there's very clearly something very wrong with you, but you just don't know what.
Yes, yes. I thank you for saying that. And I'm curious, did your family know that there was something wrong with you? Could other people in your world tell? Because I know it can be an invisible injury. Sometimes, a lot of times, the close family can know, but not
Yeah.
other people outside of that. Like, where were you with that, do you think?
Yeah, so I think the first 3 months, I was very obviously unwell. I could barely get out of bed.
Mm,
And my husband just had to hold everything together. So we've got 3 kids. It was end of term and then school summer holidays. And yeah, he just had to hold everything together, really, with me being kind of out of action.
mhm.
And I think we thought, oh, I'll be better next week. It'll just be another week and I'll be all right.
Yeah.
Um, it was, yeah, once we got into sort of normal life from September, it was very evident that this was going to be slow. So things like the fatigue, I could, I mean, it might be helpful to explain what it's like with some of the symptoms. I think I found it very hard to explain to anyone what it was like. I think I just used to say, I'm tired and I've got a headache, and I was
Mm,
grumpy. It's kind of
mhm,
what it looked like on the outside, and slow, and didn't really do anything, which was not me at all. But I
mhm,
think kind of on the inside, what it felt like was I can't really think about anything. Like my husband would say to me, so one son's got his football match at this place at this time, another one's got his football match at this place this time. What should we do? And I was like, I don't know. I don't know. So any kind of question, I just couldn't, I just don't know. And it became my thing. I would just say, I don't know. Could you stop asking me? Because I don't know.
mm.
Um, and I think one of the adaptations I did quite early on, if I had a conversation with someone, is I would just ask them stuff and let them speak, because I found it really difficult to answer questions. And if
Mm.
people would say, how are you? I'd be like, uh, up and down.
Yeah.
Really, really hard to explain.
Yeah.
So decision making or answering questions was really difficult. I had memory loss, some kind of word loss, not too bad. My husband told me, like, after about 9 months, that if anyone interrupted me mid sentence, I completely lost my way. I completely lost what I was saying, but I didn't perceive that in myself. Um, I had dizziness, which just kind of meant Well, dizziness some of the time, but a lot of the time I felt like I was on one of those travelators at the airport. So just
Mm.
very slowly moving, but I wasn't moving, which is just disconcerting and
Mm-hmm.
kind of draining. And I had a lot of pain. So headache doesn't really describe it, like someone's crushing my skull all around my head, at the front of the head, my eyes, into my cheekbones. I sometimes felt like I'd been hit in the face or like kicked in the face, jaw tension, neck tension. So I saw an osteopath and massage therapist, which sort of gave short-term relief, but it was like this constant heaviness in my head. It sometimes felt like someone had my head in like a grip under their arm and was just kind of dragging me around the place. Um, so headache doesn't describe it. So if I said I'm tired and I've got a headache, actually that's what I'm describing. Like all
Yes.
of those things. Um,
Thank you for saying, like, for being descriptive in that. I think that will be helpful for people to hear because, yes, and like, what you're saying, I think is such a common experience for people of like, I don't even know how to describe this. I'll just say this because it's easier, but
because it's
there's
easier.
so much
Mm,
more to it, like so much
yeah.
more to it.
Yeah, yeah. So it was just really debilitating, and I couldn't look at a screen. So my job had been IT related, and I just couldn't look at the screen. It would just make me wince and turn away. I couldn't read any amount of text really because it would just make the headaches worse, and it felt like everything was kind of fuzzy and moving around. Um, and light and noise sensitivity, which has been the kind of long, slow burn thing, which I didn't realize for a while. Um, but once I started to understand symptoms a bit more, I was like, oh, yeah, I think that's me. But then you start this self-doubt thing. Am I just thinking that's me because now I know I've got post-concussion syndrome and that's one of the things, or is that a thing? But
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
a thing.
It is a
Yeah.
thing. Well, and I appreciate I thank you for saying that. And also you mentioned it earlier of the even before you knew about PCS, it was the am I just making this up? Like I think that self-gaslighting, self-questioning of what am I actually feeling this? What's happening? Like that's one of the hallmark things about
Yeah.
this injury is that it it can feel so inconsistent and therefore hard to put a finger on of like what is happening exactly, why, when, like what are the things that are triggering these symptoms? Am I actually having these symptoms or not? Like it's just you
Yeah.
said it well, and I just want to bring that out so that people know that they're not alone. You're not
Yeah.
crazy. You're not lazy all of a sudden. This is a
Yeah.
brain injury. So
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
important.
And to add insult to injury, literally, you look fine. So
Yeah.
I'd see people and they'd say, "Oh, you're looking well." I mean, I didn't all the time. Sometimes I looked done in, but after a certain period, actually, you can have a normal conversation with someone. I remember meeting a friend's partner in the park, and he was like, "Oh, well, you seem okay," and I was like, So I told him all the things I couldn't do: couldn't drive, couldn't read, couldn't walk, couldn't do exercise. He was like, "Oh, okay." This doesn't sound so good. But yeah, it's
I
not
love that you
obvious.
did that.
Mm.
And yeah, no, but I think that's such a very I want to say ubiquitous, but it is very common. It's everybody, a lot of people have that experience. So thank you for
Yeah.
putting words to it. I think that's important. So did you keep working? Were you able, it sounds like you were not probably able to.
No.
Okay.
No, I mean, almost instantly, I, I, I couldn't think straight, and it was quite a complicated project, and I just knew I couldn't do it. I was leading this project, and I loved the work and I loved the people I worked with. And I kind of was responsible for the project. So I knew it wasn't something I could pick up and put down when I felt like it. Like I was either doing it or was not.
Mm.
And I couldn't look at a computer screen and I couldn't really think straight. So it was like, well, and I don't know when this is going to end. So I said, I'm not going to be able to carry on. I don't know how long for. And then once I knew it was a brain injury, I said, this is going to be a long journey. I'm going to have to stop. And that was one of the massive losses. It was really hard to just have to. It was a Thursday. I stopped at 3:15 and I never picked it up again. And I had to do handover calls with the colleague that I'd been in the restaurant with. Um, and we're still in touch. Um, and just had to let that go. And once they knew I weren't going to come back, they sent me this massive bunch of flowers, and I just sobbed and sobbed because I was like, it's been taken from me.
Uh,
I think that's one of the hard things is it's stuff is just taken from you. You have no choice. And it's the humbling thing as well, because we kind of like to think, we kid ourselves that we're in control, and actually we're not. Um, yeah,
Yeah, so true. I appreciate the way you said that. You said it's one of the massive losses. And I think that's a piece of this injury that doesn't always get addressed is that incredible grief that happens. Like
yeah,
it's your whole life is just ripped out from under you all of a sudden. Like,
yeah,
yeah, like no warning, no nothing, and all it's like
yeah.
it's just gone. And like the way that you said that was very good and helpful. And I hope we'll get into it, I hope, but I would love to hear how you've processed that, how you like work through that grief. You mentioned that you have a psychologist or psychotherapist. Has that been
Psychotherapist. Yeah,
has that been helpful through this process?
yeah, massively helpful. And I think one of the interesting things is if you'd asked me before, like totally support psychotherapy, but I wouldn't have perceived that I would be someone who would need to see a therapist.
Hmm.
Clare Sharpen doesn't
Before,
need to see a therapist before the brain injury.
okay,
Um, I'm reasonably self-aware and emotionally stable, blah, 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 blah. Complete nonsense, actually. Like it has been so helpful to process the loss, to process the fact that I'm unable to work, I'm unable to contribute, I'm unable to be productive because we have this very strong culture of being productive, of being useful, and I'm a very active, capable, competent, get stuff done kind of person. So to literally not be able to do anything
Mm.
is for me like really disabling, literally. So yeah, she helped me with that, but she also helped me understand how I do life. So, for example, I'm quite black and white, and actually helping me to see that and how that could make things harder to process. So, for example, once I understood about dysautonomia, why did that cardiologist not understand that my blood pressure and my heart rate was through the floor because I had dysautonomia after a brain injury? Why do I
Mhm.
know this from Google and YouTube, and this private consultant cardiologist in central London didn't know this, you know?
Mhm.
But she helped me go from like these kind of black and white, rages about things to actually seeing more nuance and saying, well, do you know what? He's just a person. He didn't know this stuff.
Yeah.
Um, Being able to then get peace from that rather than rage against things or kick against things. So that was
Yeah.
really helpful and just helping me understand kind of how I do life and what elements of my character support my recovery and what are potentially hindering it. So she was quite funny at one stage. She was like, the thing is, Claire, the way you deal with issues in life is you use your brain to work out how to overcome them, and you're trying to use your brain to heal your brain. That's, that's difficult.
Yes, yes. What was her recommendation there? Like I think that's an awesome point to
Yeah,
make. But what
yeah.
how do you solve for that?
Yeah, so I think a year in, what really changed for me was I recognized that I was striving and driving. I'm a very driven, motivated person, and my current project was to get well, and I was on it, and I was constantly trying to look for what have I missed? What do I not understand? What do I know about? What do I need to do? Push, 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 drive. I must get better. Like this just single-minded desperation to get rid of these symptoms and be able to live life again. And all of that I now see was caught up in this massive fear that started the moment I discovered I had a brain injury and was very fear driven and was um, actually, ironically, slowing down my progress because once I started understanding about the nervous system, actually, if you're carrying around a whole load of fear, like terror, like am I never going to get better kind of fear, then that holds you back. So interestingly, just it was about a year in, I'd had quite a big relapse at about 10 months. And once I made this shift, I was like, kind of just in my mind, okay, I'm gonna let go of this. I'm gonna stop striving. I'm gonna let my body do its thing. I'm gonna let my recovery take its course. And it's taking longer than I would like, and I am impatient in nature, but I'm just gonna have to let it ride and go with it. And I've been seeing a massage therapist for quite a few years anyway, and always had tension around my neck and my shoulder blades. And I went to see her about a week after I'd made this kind of mind shift. And she said, "Oh my word, this is like a knife through butter." She could massage around my shoulder blades and all those lumpy, bumpy bits, and all that neck tension had just gone. And so, actually, the neck tension, for me anyway, wasn't just about vestibular dysfunction. Maybe there was an element of that. It was just carrying around fear in my neck and my shoulders that I was never going to get better. And when I let go of that, then yeah, things started to change.
Oh my gosh. I wish we could like take that clip and just play it for everybody. Like, everybody who's dealing with this, that is gold. And so, oh man, I just think it will resonate with so many people. That experience of, and there are a lot of people, and I see it all the time, of very like type A, very driven, very like
Yeah,
motivated, high achievers, go-getters, like who have this injury, and then that, yeah, it becomes the project. And to some degree, and for some people that is good, like sometimes we do need to prioritize the recovery over other things, but it can be it's so easy to, there's a balance, and sometimes we go too far one way and too far the other, but
yeah,
it is so common for people to just like drive and have that fear that's driving it be increasing the stress, increasing that nervous system
yeah,
dysregulation, like it is. And it feels so counterintuitive to say, okay, I'm gonna let go of the drive here, but I
yeah,
still want that. Like it is just such a, man, a humbling experience. Like
yeah,
I don't have the control that I want to have and that I think I should have and that I believe that I have. Like it's just it is a hard thing to come to. And I think and again, there's a balance. Like we do need to be doing things to get better, and we do want to be searching, we do want to be finding answers, but we also need to rest and like let things
yeah,
take their course and let the body and the brain heal on their time frame and accept that. And it is, man, it is not easy. It is not, it
mm,
is so, it's hard. But
mm,
I love
mm,
that you said that. And I would always tell people, would do some group things at a concussion clinic, and I would let people know, everybody wants to know what to do to get better. And there are things you can do, but one of the key things to do is not do, is to rest and like give yourself the time and space to recover, like to let your brain and nervous system calm down and relax. And that like gives it the space for what you are doing to actually take root and grow. Like
yeah,
you need both. You need the doing
yeah,
and you need the rest. And that
yeah.
rest feels like not doing, and therefore it's really hard for people who are very driven and want to be doing all the time. So
Really, really hard. It's the hardest thing to ask of someone. And I resentfully rested. It was like, all right, okay, I am going to have another rest. I've only done one thing and I'm now going to rest again. And that made me cross, which
mm,
then doesn't help. Resentful resting is not rest, or over resting, that's maybe something we'll come on to. It's actually, I think if all of this comes out of a place of trust and hope rather than fear and resentment and anger and trying to set the timescales and trying to make it happen, yeah, it's very different things. There's resting and there's resting.
yeah,
Yeah,
right. I know. Oh man. Again, not an easy thing to figure out, but it is figure outable. And I think that that's important for people to
yeah,
know. There are people like you and me who are here, who've seen it, who want to
yeah,
help people and like have a vision of the what the journey can look like and how what things have been helpful to people. So there is help out there and like hand holding along this journey. I just want people to be
yeah,
reassured of that and to know that they're not alone in this. It is confusing and crazy, but real, and there is hope. So
yeah,
there were a couple of things that you brought up that I like a couple of questions of things that I want to ask before we move on, if that's okay. Um, One um, is your psychotherapist a brain injury or concussion specialized person who knows those things, or she's just really good and has been super helpful?
No, not a specialist at all. I think maybe she could be now because I've been seeing her for 2.5 years. So
Perfect.
yeah,
So find her if you're in the UK. Talk to the psychotherapist that she's been working with.
yeah. And I don't think it's necessary. I don't think that makes a huge amount of difference. Maybe someone with a bit more experience, but I don't think it mattered.
Okay. Well, good. I'm so glad that you had her, that she's been
Mm,
so helpful. And I am excited to learn more about the nutrition piece and things like that. But I'm curious if you have done this or have thought about doing it, to go back and let your cardiologist, you were so black and white, like he should have known this. Like, have you let him know? Have helped him to understand the situation any better? Just curious.
Yeah, do you know, I just got to a place of peace about it, and I was like, well, I can't tell every cardiologist in the country about dysautonomia after brain injury, so just let it be. So,
Okay, just curious on that. And then I love that you brought up that whole idea of the productivity and how like that being useful was a hard thing, like to not be useful. Can we talk about that a little bit more?
yeah.
What that meant to you to be useful or not, and how like how you've come to I almost am hesitant to say it, to come to peace with not being useful, but I feel like just as a human, like I don't know, we have a lot of thoughts about what useful means. Anyway, I'd love to hear your thoughts on
Yeah.
that journey for you.
Yeah. I think there's something around being a mum. Not entirely mums. I know dads do a lot, but certainly for me as a mum, um, there's a lot that has to be done. I used to feel like I was in front of one of those tennis ball machines and having tennis balls fired at me, and I was very good at hitting them back. I was very efficient. I would get stuff done. You could rely on me to get stuff done and to be organized. And I think if to an extent your identity is part of that, that's who I am. People would tell me that's what I'm like. Colleagues would tell me that, that was part of who I am. I'm efficient. Um, then losing that is in some way losing part of your identity. But actually, our identity is so much bigger than what we do. And I mean, we'll come on to faith, but I'm a Christian. I believe in a much higher power than just me, and a purpose for my life. And part of that is also about identity, who I am. And who I am is who I've been created to be, not what I managed to achieve in a day, and not what I managed to tick off my to-do list, and my sense of self-worth, I think, came from, oh, it's been a good day because I've done that, that, and that.
Mhm.
And so if that's how you define your good day, then what does it mean if literally you've walked your child to school and sat on the sofa all day? Like, is that a bad day? And I had to come to a place of accepting, well, this is where I'm at, and this is what my capacity is at the moment, and that doesn't make me less of who I am, and doesn't make me less me. I was fortunate in that my character hadn't changed fundamentally, but my capacity had changed, and I think I just had to make peace with that and accept that. But that's been part of, now I see that as part of the gift, because I'm not running around like crazy now. I don't have this underlying frantic that I used to have. I have much more of a sense of peace. I'm much more grounded. I'm much more chill about stuff. And, if you want me to get stuff done, well, maybe not. Good luck. The kids sometimes find that annoying. They've got good at getting stuff done themselves. Um, and yeah, I'm much easier on myself. I'm much easier on other people. I have lower expectations, but I think in a good way, not in a bad way.
Mhm.
And so that has made everything easier, and that's definitely been one of the gifts in this. I remember early on, I was about 6 months in, and I was cleaning my teeth one morning, and I realized I was cleaning my teeth at the rate as if I had a train to catch. And I stopped myself, and I was like, I am literally doing nothing today. Like, I have nothing planned for the whole of today. Why am I cleaning my teeth in this frantic way? And I still smile about that when I'm cleaning my teeth. It's like, yeah, this is, I think we've got to a pace of life that just everything then becomes do it quickly. And I don't live like that anymore. I don't clean my teeth like that anymore.
That's so it's such a beautiful, like real example. I love that. And that just, man, thank you for sharing all of that. It was so beautifully said. I don't know if you listened to the episode that I did with Melissa Urban. Um, but we had a good conversation about that. She's similarly driven, and then all of a sudden couldn't do things after her injury, and we had a good conversation of that. And I feel like that would tie in, so we'll link to that episode in the show notes as well. But I really appreciate how you put all of that, and it was beautifully said. Thank you. So let's talk about the healing recovery journey, when you finally
Yeah.
figured out what was going on, and you started, and I assume that you were
you said it was 5 months in that you started like that, seeing the providers who
Yeah.
could hopefully help. Yeah.
Yeah.
What was helpful for you in this journey and made a difference for you?
Yeah. Well, the things that were helpful didn't necessarily happen in the order, or the things that were most helpful didn't necessarily happen first. So I started with vestibular physio, and could see an improvement from that. But then 10 months in, I really relapsed, and so it was like, well, what, this is meant to be getting better. What's going on there?
Mm.
And I actually went from seeing a vestibular physio to then a concussion physio who did a graded return to exercise thing. So the Buffalo treadmill test and return to exercise. And that really got me out of the relapse. And I now understand kind of the role of exercise. I was exercising before, but the role of exercise and nervous system regulation, and how that kind of, like, he talked about building resilience in the body. And, it was like showing my body, look, you can do this stuff. So I think, yeah, I mean, exercise has been a massive part, and the vestibular stuff. I don't have any dizziness or any of that now. I did have vertigo 2 or 3 times, like the really bad, lying in bed and everything is spinning on an axis, like
Oh man.
there's no up and down, there's no horizontal. That was just horrendous, but they were quite short-lived, those episodes. And I think they were stress related, each time. So yeah, vestibular physio and the return to exercise stuff for sure were really important. I think fundamentally, what I would say, the kind of ground, the foundation is, would be nervous system regulation, and that's the stuff that I learned from your podcast, from other podcasts, from other just things on social media. And you have to be so careful with social media because it can be nonsense. And I think at first I saw nervous system regulation as more in the woo woo
Hmm. Hmm.
category. And I think I sort of thought, okay, well, I'm lying in my hammock and I'm doing breathing, so I'm all good. But actually really understanding about polyvagal theory and fight or flight, but particularly for me, freeze, and what it means when you're stuck in the freeze, and the isolation and the depression and the kind of stuckness of it, really. And it's something that I explain to my clients when I'm working with people. That's, where we start is the nervous system regulation and starting to build that awareness. And so I think for me, it was about 18 months in when I just got so frustrated with this thing. Like I say, of I'm good on holiday and then I'm not when I'm at home. I'm good when I'm having fun, and then when life is boring, I'm not. Like, am I just making this up? Or if I'm in a supermarket, I feel rubbish, but I can go to a friend's party for an hour and a half, and understanding that actually what's underneath that is how safe my body is feeling, and the whole nervous system regulation thing. So once I really started understanding that, there's a story. I think I can't remember, a year and a bit, maybe 2 years in, and I was picking my son and his friend up from a football match, and I got hit by a football. But it hit me on the arm, not on the head. And actually, it didn't even hit me that hard. And I was like, okay, it's fine. Walked on. And then I started thinking, oh, if I'd have been hit in the head, I would have got dizzy. Oh, it would have been awful if I'd been hit in the head. And then I got dizzy. And then I grabbed onto the fence next to me. You're laughing. And
So real.
yeah, and got angry with my husband. I was like, wait. That instant nervous system response. And then I thought, well, okay, actually, I know what I need to do here. So I looked around and I was like, okay, yes, I got hit by a ball. Yes, that was scary, but it's okay. Didn't actually hurt. Look, there's all these footballs around. Here I am. I'm safe. There's not going to be another one. I'm fine. I'm away from the pitches. Calm down, did the breathing. And then one of the things that my therapist had helped me with is that I very much go in on myself when I'm struggling. And so she'd encouraged me to reach out for support. So I said to my husband, please, can you give me a hug? So we're there standing at the side of these football pitches having a long hug
Oh,
with
I
this
love
like slightly freaking out woman. And then we went home and I was fine. And I was fine for the rest of the day. And that for me was a real aha moment, because I was like, okay, previously I would have downward spiraled, gone to bed when I got home, game over for the rest of the day. So
Oh
yeah.
my gosh, that's such a good example. I'm so glad I think examples are very helpful. Like it gives us
Yeah.
something concrete to like picture and visualize and see how the reality of how it impacts us and how real that nervous system regulation is. And you're right, it is foundational. It's funny, I had a client that when I first started doing concussion coaching, I hadn't had the background and training in the nervous system regulation yet. It was more just mindset stuff, which I am a firm believer in. But
Yeah.
now that I know the nervous system stuff, I'm like, oh, that's foundational. And I
Yeah.
had a client and I remember like working with her on stuff and then like after I learned that we'd completed our time together after I was learned the nervous system stuff, I was like, I wish I could go back in time and like teach her these things because that's what she needed. She needed nervous system regulation. And it was kind of funny because like just like 3 years later, she reached back out and was like, I think I'd love to do some more coaching with you. I'm like, yes, I get to do it again.
Yeah.
Like I get my second chance. I was so happy.
Yeah.
And she's awesome and doing great. She's so cool. But
Yeah.
it was yes, it is foundational. And the reason I was laughing was when you like I had an experience once where I was in a group setting, like we were a bunch of people listening to a speaker, and the person had some sort of like um surgery on his nose or something, and as he was speaking like something happened, it started opening up and it started bleeding, and he like just grabbed tissues and he just like kept putting them on. He did not stop speaking, but it just was like soaking through this, and I was like I was kind of like watching it like, wow, I can't believe, like just fascinated, how long is this going to last? Like what is he going to do? And then I thought, oh man, I hope nobody in the audience gets like fainting at the sight of blood, because that would be a problem for
Mm.
them. And as soon as I thought that, I was like, oh, I'm starting to feel, I was like, I can't watch him anymore.
Yeah.
So it is so crazy how much our nervous system gets triggered by things, and how we can, I didn't know at that point, but now I would have like turned away, breathed, like,
Yeah.
like control, like manage the nervous system, regulate that, and things get better.
Yeah.
It's cool. And I
Yeah.
love that you have those tools at your disposal now.
Yeah. And I think understanding how powerful our thoughts are, it's not
Yeah.
really something we're taught, but our thoughts are super powerful. And
Yes.
the fact, if you're nervous about an exam, you can vomit and run to the toilet. Like, our physiology and our
Typical.
brains are so connected, and we underestimate that. Yeah. What's going on
Yeah.
in our minds. Yeah.
Amen. So true.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
very, very true.
Yeah. So, I mean, the nervous system for sure. And then kind of related to that is stuff around the neuroscience of pain. So I had these headaches for a year and just felt like I couldn't function properly if I had a headache every day. And it was not all the time, but every day I would have a headache for a period of time, and they would go on for weeks and weeks. It was rare to have a day without a headache. So somehow I stumbled across a book called The Way Out by Alan Gordon.
That's the second time it's been mentioned. Actually, third time I think it's been mentioned on this podcast. I'm so glad you
Okay.
brought it up again. It is a
Yeah.
good one. The Way
Yeah.
Out. Yes.
Yeah. The Way Out by Alan Gordon. At that stage, I still was struggling with reading, so I listened to it on audio. So it's available on audio if you're struggling. And
It's
that for me
funny.
was, sorry?
He's like an entertaining author. Like it's
Yeah.
very good information, but also like easy to listen to and fun. So
Yeah, it really made me laugh. Yeah, when he
yes.
listed all the different types of chronic pain he had, it really made me laugh. It's like, yeah, this is getting ridiculous. And it's not at all concussion brain injury specific. It's just about chronic pain. But I read that, and so then started using the Curable app, which he's been part of developing along with other neuroscientists, and it's essentially about the neuroscience of pain, how the brain, based on information from the nervous system and elsewhere, the brain decides the level of pain to give us. And the more we catastrophize and the more we worry about the pain, and oh, my headache's worse today than it was yesterday, the worse it gets, and it gets into a downward spiral. And so using the meditations and the other tools on the Curable app, that was a game changer. Being me, I did it multiple times a day, every day, and very quickly started seeing change. I would have long periods of a day without a headache, and the headaches were getting milder. And then I had whole days without headaches. It was like, okay, there's really, really something in this, and just kept using it. And the headaches it was kind of like they just evaporated. They just kind of walked away, And now if I get a headache, so if I've been doing something significantly challenging, like socially, whatever, I just go back and use that, and they go. It's amazing. So it's also like a long-term tool. Yeah.
Oh, thank you for putting that out there. Thank you. That will be so helpful, because the headaches, are such a, the way you described your headaches too is very graphic and very like, man, I think a lot of people will be able to relate to that too. So it is a very, very significant issue for so many people. So thank you for sharing what helped. And it's exciting and inspiring to know that it was so effective. It is pretty astounding.
Amazing. And I've just written to Curable recently actually and said, this is my experience. I'd love to just get more out there about concussion and using this tool. So hopefully we can do some of that.
Fantastic. Oh, I love that. That is so good. And the other interviewee that specifically that I can think of who mentioned this, the way out, it was very helpful for his recurring headaches as well. So specifically headaches. So
and tinnitus apparently. So
amazing. Oh, that's fantastic. It helps with tinnitus, however people say it. It is
tinnitus in the States.
Be aware that it is helpful. So good. Thank you for sharing that. Any other things that you found particularly helpful as in the, you want to talk about nutrition?
Yeah, so it was quite funny. So I'd experienced as a teenager, I had chronic juvenile arthritis as a teenager and went to a nutritional therapist and got completely better. So I had some sense of nutrition and recovery, nutrition and overall health, but I didn't really know much. So when I was first ill and thought I had chronic fatigue, I thought, well, I'll go back to nutrition stuff. So I listened to some podcasts and just went on a whole food, just cut out all the processed food. I ate pretty healthily anyway, and did that as my focus. And then when I discovered it was a brain injury, I was like, oh, darn it, I've just done 10 weeks of like super healthy eating and I needn't have bothered. And then quite quickly realized that actually I was spot on. And I've got a bookshelf full of books and a lot of brain books, and a lot of them talked about nutrition. So one of the things I do with my clients now is explain about the role of nutrition in brain recovery, but also ongoing brain health. So we talk about blood sugar. I call it blood, fat, blood, guts, fat, and water. So blood sugar balancing, gut health, healthy fats, and understanding about trans fats and healthy fats, and then hydration and just the importance of that. And so for me, actually, once I got my head around it, it was quite straightforward. And I do think that has been an important part. And it's one of those things you can't prove what would my recovery have looked like without that. But actually, a lot of the research and evidence around brain health and what's going on nutrition wise is just really important. So I think that's, at first I thought that was foundational. I now think nervous system regulation is foundational, but I would say that's like the next layer pretty much. That and exercise. I mean, it's all important, isn't it? And I don't know that you can put a hierarchy on it, but it's all important. And the whole inflammation in the body, if you've got, inflammation going on before the brain injury, none of us come to brain injury as a clean sheet. There's always stuff going on. Then actually that's going to feed into the complication. So I kind of see it as doing everything we can to give our body absolutely everything it needs to thrive, and that then lets the body do its thing healing wise. So
beautiful. Thank you. Are there any resources or books or anything in particular that if somebody was like, oh, I want to learn more about how health things could be, or like the nutrition side of brain recovery, would you
I mean, quite a few different books. I would say do research, because otherwise I'll be here recommending books for ages, but and different books say different things, and I don't necessarily agree with all of it, so you sometimes have to kind of weigh things up. So for example, some authors talk a lot about a ketogenic diet. That's not something I've followed, and you have to follow that with medical supervision. So there's different approaches.
Okay. But no, that's helpful. I appreciate the nervous system, the nutrition, the exercise. All of these are so foundational to actual healing. And it is, again, you can recover from a brain injury. There is recovery that is possible. Sometimes you may not ever, the brain injury happened. That's a thing that has happened. And so you can't like undo it, but you can have massive recovery. And those are key foundational. So I'm grateful that we're bringing that out. I would love to hear if you could like go back in time and give your yourself advice early on in the recovery process, what would you tell yourself?
Yeah. I think I would put my arms around myself, say, just trust that it is going to be not just okay, you're going to be totally well and vibrant and healthy and happy. And you don't need to fear. Don't worry, don't fear. And it's you're gonna get through this and get beyond this. And it's okay. Yeah. I wish I could, looking back, it was the fear that held me back, I think, actually. Had I not developed such a fear around I am never going to get better, I think my recovery would have actually been a lot quicker. I do wonder, had I never discovered I had a brain injury and just kind of gradually rehabilitated myself into life, doing stuff, getting back to stuff, not burdening myself with all this information and all this fear, and knowing people's stories of I've had a brain injury 8 years ago, 10 years ago, it's like, yeah. So like you said at the beginning, I don't want someone to listen to this story and think, oh my goodness, it's going to be 2-3 years, because it might well not be. And actually, if you manage not to be so fearful, not to get yourself in a deep nervous system hole of, I'm never going to get better, then actually, it might well lift pretty quickly. So that's what I would love to say to myself. Yeah, if I could go back.
Yes, thank you. And I think I hope that will resonate with people, because I want people to hear that message. That is so beautiful. Like, I love totally well and vibrant and happy. That is what people want. And I just want to validate too, though, like that fear of what is this? Am I ever going to get better? Like, that is so understandable as well. Like, so very natural human response to all of this. But hearing somebody who's been through it be able to say, on the other, like, there is another side of it, and you can be well, happy, and vibrant. Like, I hope that is just water to a thirsty soul. Like, that is important message to get.
And I think something that made me quite angry early on was just a lot of advice is how to live with this. And I was like, I am not willing to live with this. I'm not going to live with this level of dysfunction for the rest of my life. No, I'm not having it. So if you're going to talk to me about just living around my symptoms, I'm off. I'm not listening. That was kind of my approach. And actually, I was not wrong. I do not live around my symptoms now. I don't carefully plan and prioritize. I had to for a long time, but actually it doesn't dictate how I live my life now,
So those things that you mentioned, the nervous system, the nutrition, the exercise, are there other things, or like, how was it just, do you feel like it was a combination of those and time of implementing them that changed things for you? Or how, I'd love to hear kind of.
Yeah, so I think it's definitely a combination of things. I think it's a magical puzzle that's different for everybody. The picture is different for everybody, and the number of pieces is different for everybody. And I do think from a place of peace and hope, you have to keep persevering and exploring different pieces until they all fit together. So I would say all those things that I've mentioned, and getting the balance right between sleep and rest, not resting too much, not resting resentfully, but actually, all of that kind of stuff also is important. The final piece for me, which actually only finished off the jigsaw basically a month ago, was I still had this light and noise sensitivity. And I met up with someone, another concussion recovery person, and he described he'd seen a hypnotherapist. And working with her had completely transformed loads of issues that he had, absolutely loads. And one of the things he pointed out to me, he was like, why are you wearing earplugs still? And you keep taking your sunglasses off, on and off, and your cap on and off. And he described going into a room and scanning the room for safety. And we went for lunch together. And I realized when I walked into the restaurant, I was scanning the restaurant. Where's the natural light? What's the noise like? What's the music like? How many people are there? Is this going to be okay? So I had this deep fear again of light and noise sensitivity. And it's not the light and noise itself, but it's the symptoms that would follow. So if I've been in a noisy restaurant for 2 hours, wiped out. And feeling out of control, feeling trapped, feeling I can't leave, all that sort of stuff would feed into it. So after a couple of weeks, I asked him for the number of this hypnotherapist. I had a session with her for an hour. It was very normal. There was nothing weird about it. I can remember the entire thing. I can tell you exactly what she said. And it was online. It wasn't in person. And the basic gist was she told my body, reminded my body what it was like 5 years ago. So well pre-concussion, being comfortable around light and noise. So electric light and different man-made noises. And said to my body, thank you for protecting Claire during this time after the concussion, but it's not necessary anymore. She doesn't need it anymore. And she got me to imagine putting all the kind of things that I struggle with. So fire engines and police cars and LED lights and building sounds, all this kind of stuff. And I put it all in a box and then chucked the box in a bin. And afterwards I was like, well, I don't know if that worked or not. Who knows? Maybe that was a waste of money. And what has been extraordinary is the last month. It's like the world have just turned the lights down and the volume is the same, but I don't have a like massive tense up response when a fire engine or a police car goes past. We live in London, so there's lots of those kind of noises. They don't touch me now in the way that they did. It's like I've got a bubble around me. And I was in a group a couple of weeks ago with a load of mums and toddlers, and the toddlers all came back in the room at the end, and there was lots of noise. And previously, I would have been out the door. I'd be like, I'm going to go, bye. And I stood in there and I was like, get me. This is loud and I'm feeling fine. So, and I drove home from going out with a friend, and I was driving home at dusk, and just all the headlights were fine. And I kept looking at them like, surely there's going to be a bright one soon, because there were some of them that just were so bright I couldn't look at them. And if I was sat at a traffic light behind a car with its brakes on and those big wide brake lights,
Yeah.
if I was sat with the kids and I was driving, I'd have my cap on and I would put my head down so I couldn't see the light, and the kids would have to tell me when I could go again. Like, it was that bad driving behind lights. And I was sat behind this car, and I was like, yeah, you're bright, but you don't get me anymore. So for me, the hypnotherapy was it was only one session, but just surprising resolution to 3 years worth of light and noise sensitivity.
Holy cow. I'm like blown away right now because this is the light and noise sensitivity. I don't think I've ever talked to anybody who has told me this was the thing that like put a nail in that coffin for me. Like that
Yeah.
it was the thing that fixed it. Like
Yeah.
that's incredible, especially coming from someone who it sounds like, even the nervous system stuff was a little too woo-woo at the beginning, right? Like that
Yeah.
I imagine you're not one who's like typically open to these things
No.
before. So that I feel like that adds a level of validity to this somehow.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, you've got to be open-minded, and you've got to try things that you think might be nonsense, like within reason. They've got to
Yeah.
be safe. I didn't just go with any old hypnotherapist, someone who'd been really strongly recommended, but yeah.
And do you know if that hypnotherapist had specific experience helping people with, I mean, obviously she helped the other guy who had a concussion, but like I don't know, that's fascinating to me. Do you know, do you know if she
Yeah.
had any
I
kind of,
again, like the psychotherapist,
it's okay,
yeah, I,
like
I
people
don't
can
think it's
help with other
relevant
things.
that
Yeah.
they have experience. Yeah, I think it's just where you've got a deep-seated subconscious thing going on that your body is doing. I'd managed to ease it a lot. So I would stand under the lights in our local shop and be like, this doesn't hurt me, da, 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 da. But it wasn't enough to persuade my body that it could let go of this protective mechanism. So I
Yeah.
think what's powerful about hypnotherapy is it just, whatever your subconscious protective mechanisms are that you can't control and get rid of, hypnotherapy puts you in a place where you're relaxed enough for your subconscious to be open to positive suggestions of, I'm safe around noise and light. I'm
Mhm.
safe. It's fine. That's
That's,
it, basically.
yeah.
I mean, extraordinary.
That is
Yeah,
extraordinary. That is very cool. I don't know. I don't even know how to
yeah,
like beyond cool. It's very I am grateful for you sharing that and hope that that will be helpful for people. That's actually one of the client that I was mentioning earlier who I'd worked with at the beginning, and then I got to work with her a second time. That's kind of her biggest lingering thing is light and noise sensitivity. So I'm excited to share this with her.
Yeah. And I would say, you know, I described my recovery as taking kind of 2.5 years, 2.5 to 3 years, really. I would say the last month I've been fully recovered because I don't have this light and noise sensitivity anymore, and all of the consequences that go with that, like the overwhelm and the fatigue that come after being out and about. So I've been fine at home for really quite a long time and functioning really quite well most of the time. But it was when I would then go out and be in a stimulating environment that I'd struggle. So, and I did think maybe this is just going to be one of those things with a long tail, but I'm really glad I gave hypnotherapy a go because it has completely transformed my interaction with the outside world.
Wow. Wow. Well, thank you. That's amazing. And I don't know if, if your hypnotherapist wants his or her information out there, we could potentially put that in the show notes if that would be okay. But that's
Jacqueline, somebody or another is her name, but we can put it in the show notes. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Is she in the UK?
Yeah, she's in the UK. But in all honesty, I think any hypnotherapist who, you know, you've done some checks on or had recommended would be able to do the same.
Yeah. So cool. Thank you for sharing that. I'm excited about that actually. And I would love to hear if you wouldn't mind sharing, like, what is, you know, you mentioned that really big setback. You know, you were making some progress and all of a sudden like a big setback. That's hard, and it is definitely a part of this recovery process for people, and I'm sure that a lot of people can relate to that. Just, you know, the devastation of probably of like, I think devastated is probably a fair word to use in relation to that. Like, you just feel so frustrated and broken, and like, here I was making progress and now I'm taking steps backward. What would you say to somebody who's in the middle of one of those right now? What would you, what advice would you give or hope?
I would use the word crushing. A setback is crushing because you've made really great progress and then you're not. And I would say I was doing a lot. I'd started driving again. You know, I was doing short jogs. A lot was getting better. And then I started getting fatigue, and then I started thinking, maybe I've done too much. Okay, so I'm not going to swim anymore, and I'm going to stop driving. And I pulled back too much. And so now when I look back, I'm like, oh, that's why it happened, because I went from being confident and making progress to then being fearful again and reining back in again and going back to the, oh no, it's not working. So what I would say to someone, and what I say to my clients who are in this is, you know, and it's part of the pain reprocessing thing. It's like, oh, okay, the headaches come back. Fine. Hello. There you are again. Never mind. And not making a deal of it, not worrying about, oh, is tomorrow going to be terrible? Just accepting it. Coming back to that place of peace, really, in a nervous system regulation place, and understanding that, having a bit more awareness about, okay, what's going on in my mind, what's going on in life that may be contributing to this. And for me, it was fear. And keeping going with the things, you know. So I was walking every day and I carried on with the walking, but I stopped swimming, for example. Well, why stop swimming? Actually, swimming is not going to hurt me. Just swim more gently, lady. You know, just, you know, driving, you're managing driving fine. You don't need to stop driving, you know. And I think I then got stuck in a fatigue hole that I didn't know how to pull myself out of. And the more the weeks went by, the more desperate I felt. And it was only when I did the graded return to exercise that I got out of that. And that was a bit like understanding the freeze state of the polyvagal theory, the nervous system stuff. It's like, mobilize out of this freeze. Tell your body it's all right. It can do this stuff. And then everything gets going again. So yeah, if you're stuck in a slump, go for a walk, do something joyful, have some fun, hug lots of people, do something you love, start living life, because you will get out of this hole again. And if you start living as though you're already coming out of the hole, you'll come out of the hole. Whereas if you're living as though you're going to stay in this hole forever, you'll potentially stay in the hole forever. So yeah, they're just, have some fun. Find something fun to do.
Right. Yeah. Oh, that's so good. And it's astounding how much it comes back to that, like, where our mind is at and how we're how we're managing our nervous system. It is so, so fascinating. And I do think that it's okay also, and I'm sure you agree with this, that to feel the emotion of like, oh, like it sucks. Like it's okay to be mad about it,
Yeah.
but then to like have the pity party if you need to, for sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
that is allowed.
Yeah.
But then also like how we're thinking about things really does matter. So if you need to think this sucks and I hate this, that's okay. Like feel
Yeah.
it, let that emotion process. But then also like you said, like how we're thinking about, if as long as we're not making it like, oh my gosh, this is the end of my life, like all of those things, like we can shift nervous system, mindset, all of those things just really make a difference. So
yeah, for sure. Yeah,
and
I
doing
agree.
things that you love, even if you're not feeling great, like hug somebody. I love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you for all of that. And I would love to hear your thoughts on advice for family members, loved ones, people who are trying to support someone who's going through this.
Yeah. That's a hard one. I mean, my husband was incredible in how he just held everything together when I was struggling and keeping going. Like, he was so patient and so kind for such a long time. And, you know, that patience and kindness can wear thin, particularly when it's starting to look, when it's so unpredictable, and when he would have to pick up the pieces when I fell apart. What I would say is actually the best thing to do, what I regret not doing, is just getting more help. So help from a coach, some help from starting with physiotherapy or getting other help, and actively seeking out people who understand concussion and can help you walk this journey, because the person with concussion is struggling to think straight and find their way through. You don't know what's going on and you don't know how to help them, and you're having to pick up everything else that they can't pick up. You and they can't really be expected to know the solution. So I think my best advice, and if I could change one thing, it would be just to get help from someone like you, from a concussion coach who can just say, okay, yeah, all this, I validate everything you're saying. This is the way through. These are the things to look at. These are the things that are not so important. I'll help you find your way through. And then you're not struggling on alone. And then the fear starts to go. You'll feel more like your loved one is making progress and is in safe hands, rather than none of you know what's going on and you're going around in circles. So yeah, that would be it.
Mm. And would you say that's getting that help for the person, the family members who are helping, or for the person who's dealing
for the
with
person with concussion? Yeah. Yeah. Because I
active?
think the temptation as a family member, as a loved one, is to try and fix it, and you don't know how to fix it. How would you know? But there are people who know how to fix it. So the best thing you can do is help them find someone who can fix it. Yeah. And it's not going to be quick, but it's possible. Yeah, I mean, it might be quick. Some people are lucky, but yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
It can be, yes, it definitely will be quicker than it would be otherwise.
for
So
sure.
we
Yeah.
can say that with
Yeah.
confidence.
And I think you don't need to try and become an expert in this. Like, let the experts help
Yeah.
the person through it. Yeah.
Beautifully said. Thank you. And I love that you are one of those people as well who can help people. I know you're doing coaching. I would love to hear about what you're doing, how you're helping in this space, especially in the UK, where, like you said, in the intro, it's still patchy a little bit. I feel like it is everywhere. We're still figuring things out in general, but how are you helping in this space?
So I I was learning a lot about nutrition and lifestyle stuff, and I saw a course about becoming a health coach. And health coaching is big in the States. It's really almost unheard of in the UK. And I could see that health coaching was a way of bringing all of this completely different perspective on health to a person. So rather than, I think in the UK, we have a very strong culture of, I'm ill, I'll go to the doctor and the doctor will fix me, and there's nothing really for me to do. And once you have post-concussion, it's like, well, you can get offered headache medication that doesn't particularly help with headaches, as far as I can tell. Antidepressants if you're depressed, maybe vestibular physiotherapy and psychotherapy if you've got a doctor who understands that helps. And that's basically it. And there is not a solution. And so yeah, to all sorts of chronic health problems that's relevant for. So I just got really interested in this whole different way of seeing health and the health crisis that we're in, in the UK and obviously elsewhere in the world. And actually, that empowering people to take control of their health is just such an incredible shift. It's like turning things 180 degrees. So I was training to be a health coach, and then kind of just felt this really strong sense of how lost I felt in all of this. Like, lost is the only word in how to work out recovery. And I knew that through the health coaching and through the research I'd done, that actually I was compiling this sense of, okay, these are all the things that are important. So I became a certified health coach, and as part of that process decided to work with people with post-concussion. There's maybe two people in the UK I've connected with, and one other who I've been told about but not managed to connect with yet, who do this. So there is almost nothing in the UK that takes this holistic approach. There's a very good place called Hobbs Rehabilitation that do a lot of the vestibular type stuff and have a much more whole person approach. But actually all the stuff that we've been talking about isn't a paradigm in the UK for post-concussion care. So I thought, right, well, this is going to be my new purpose. This is going to be my new, what I can give back. And I knew very early on that that this was a gift, and I describe it as the gift wrapped in suffering. And there was a lot of suffering, there was a lot of wrapping, but actually the gift is what I've gained from it, but also what I can give to others in terms of helping them get through this and not having to be as lost as I was. So and it's been a learning journey as well. I've sometimes had a bit of a crisis of confidence and backed off and thought, oh, I'm not so sure about doing this. But actually I do have a really strong sense that all of these approaches around nervous system and the neuroscience of pain and nutrition and exercise and sleep and mindset, all of that stuff, if we understand that and can implement that, we give our bodies like the best possible chance of recovery. And that's been my experience. And the people I work with, I'm seeing real improvements in them, which is really encouraging. I mean, it's amazing working with people week by week and seeing the changes that they're having. So what I'm doing is I'm running a group course. It's called the Post-Concussion Wellbeing Course. And I think what's quite special about being in a group is, for example, we have people join who are perhaps further on in the journey or who've recovered, who are sharing their own insights and perspectives. So it's not just me and the group, and also sharing between the group and doing the journey of recovery together. And it is the ups and downs. So 2 weeks ago, one of my clients was like, oh, I'm feeling so much better. My husband has commented, I've got so much more energy. It's like, woo. And then last week she's, oh no, I'm really struggling again, and this is the reality. But walking that with other people is really encouraging, because then you don't have that sense of what we were talking about before of, oh, is this just me? Am I just making this up? When you see it playing out in other people and everything, all that shared experience is really powerful. So what I do is some of it is explaining some of the kind of conceptual stuff that we've talked about, and then the coaching is helping people think about, okay, how can I apply this into my real life? If I were to do a curable meditation every day, when would I do that? What would that look like? How do I schedule this stuff in? How do I start to build up exercise, and talking through that? And so they do that in a very careful, controlled way. Helping people make tweaks to nutrition. So it's really not about chucking out everything in the cupboard and only eating lentils, It's actually just slowly understanding what the different levers are that we can pull, and just tweaking stuff to optimize what we're eating. It's often just what can we add in that is helpful for the brain. So that's what I'm doing. So I've been coaching for about a year now, and growing it gradually, and I really love it. So yeah.
Oh my gosh. The whole time you were talking just now, I was like, got chills too, because that is like, I feel like we have been similarly called. What you're doing is exactly you're speaking my language. That's exactly what I am passionate about as well. And it is so, so wonderfully rewarding to see the progress people make as you're like walking them through this, because these are the things that make a difference, and to see people implement them and then feel the difference in their life is like the best thing in the whole world. So I love that you're doing that you're bringing it there and making this change in the world. I think it's that holistic approach matters.
Yeah.
That's so beautiful. I'm curious with the group that you're doing, is that, so you're doing one-on-one coaching, and then is the group like a ongoing support group that's free, or is it like a time contained thing that you're doing? It's like a paid thing. What is the group?
Yeah, so it's a 10-week program spread over 10 to 12 weeks, just depending on people's schedules, once a week. Yeah, that's a paid option, or one-to-one is a paid option. But actually I'm moving more towards group because I just feel like there's more benefit in a group than there is one-to-one for the
Awesome.
reasons
Yeah.
I've described. So
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
And I think, I there are so many people, like there's 1.4 million people who go to hospital with a brain injury every year in the UK. I wasn't even one of them. I didn't even go to hospital.
Yes, so many more that we don't even know about.
Yeah,
Yes. Yes.
exactly. And who end up in this position and who end up so lost. So actually, I want to be able to support people at scale, really, rather than just one to one, and in a way that's affordable. So yeah, so that's why I've set up this group program. And really, I want to be part of changing the perspective in the UK about post-concussion. So I asked my neurologist in my first meeting with him, will I ever get better? And he shrugged his shoulders. Well, actually, the answer is yes. There is every possibility that you get better, but you need to do a whole lot of whole person stuff and understand, these different things. And it's different for everyone, but yes, it is possible with this kind of approach. Yeah, it's a different paradigm. It's a different way of looking at health and understanding health, but it's one that changes things rather than just works around the symptoms and makes you accept them. So yeah, it's really powerful. So that's where I'm heading with this stuff. That's where I want to go.
I love it. I love it. I'm so grateful to make this connection and love what you're doing. Again, I like just seeing the few things that you'd posted on Instagram. I was like, oh, I'm gonna like this girl. You are amazing. This is so wonderful. And I just, anything more that you want to say, anything that we haven't covered, anything, I know you mentioned briefly the faith piece. Is there anything more that you want to say in regards to that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just for all of us, this is a faith journey in whatever your faith and spirituality is. It's just, making sense of challenges. For me, a friend said to me, "Oh, is it really helpful that you have your faith?" And in some ways, I'm like, yes and no. Like when you really come across hard times, it also makes you really question, okay, am I persevering in my faith? I'm a follower of Jesus. Do I believe in Jesus and all that means? Or am I actually going to be flaky when times get hard? And that's been an up and down process like the rest of it. But I certainly have felt like having a wider perspective on life and God's hand in this, and trusting that God is with me through this. Actually, there's a reason why the Bible says, do not fear. I think God knows about our nervous system issues,
Probably has some clue about that. Yeah.
And trusting that he is with me and has been with me through this, and that he has a plan for me out of this. I've had that that sense from very early on. So yeah, and that's a beautiful thing, and that's how I can see it, as a gift wrapped in suffering, and accept that, accept that gift that's been given to me. So yeah.
Oh, that's a cool point. The like receiving that gift, even though like as I said, the wrapping seems thick sometimes. So
Yeah.
that's beautifully said. Thank you for sharing that. And if people want to hear more from you, if they want to work with you, how can they find you?
Yeah, so I have a website. It's thebrainhealthcoach.co.uk, and I'm on Instagram and Facebook as the Brain Health Coach UK. So yeah, those are ways to connect.
Okay, reach out to
Yeah.
Claire, you guys. This is
Mhm.
good stuff going here.
And,
So
and Bethany, I'd just like to say, like, you have been a part of this journey for me, listening to your podcast, listening to the people that you've interviewed, the people with lived experience, but also the people with professional expertise in this area. You have been one of those jigsaw pieces, and the information that you share, and the compassion with which you do it, and the way you validate people and validate their experiences has genuinely really helped me clarify all of this stuff in a way that, I'm now helping other people. So I just want you to know that there's a snowball effect, not just of you and the people that you work with, but you've helped me, and now I'm helping others. So I just want to say thank you. It's great what you're doing.
Thank you. Make me cry over here, but
sorry, I made you cry.
It's all right. I do this a lot here. No, that's very meaningful to me. Thank you. And I am so happy for the people who are going to be working with you and to see that just continue. It is a beautiful, beautiful thing. So thank you. And we will stay in touch for sure.
For sure.
I'm so glad you listened in today. I hope you have gained some helpful insights and inspiration regarding dealing with and recovering from concussions. My goal is to create more awareness and education about concussions and the fact that there is so much that can be done to improve life after someone has had one. Help me spread the message by liking, commenting, rating, and subscribing to this podcast, and share it with others who would benefit from hearing it. There are more resources available on my website. And again, if you or someone you love would benefit from concussion coaching, sign up for a free consultation using the link in the show notes or at my website, www.theconcussioncoach.com. Thank you. See you next time, and take good care of that amazing brain of yours.